The issue of manufacturing jobs and industrial policy is really misunderstood. So, the first thing I want to make clear is industrial policy is not primarily about creating more manufacturing jobs. That's gravy. That's nice, but the main issue is industrial output, not jobs. Now, second point is US doesn't only need proactive industrial policies in manufacturing. For example, we're urgently need industrial policies for non-manufacturing industries like AI, quantum computing, fusion power, but manufacturing is still an exceptionally important sector for reasons I'll get to in a minute. Third point is the question of why the US lost so many manufacturing jobs in recent decades, whether it's due to automation, whether it's due to imports, etc., etc. That is distinct from the question of whether we'd better off with more manufacturing jobs or more manufacturing output. So even if the main cause of America's job losses was bad trade policy, which is true, even if that's not true, getting more manufacturing jobs is still a good idea. Now, you got to start by recognizing that manufacturing is a larger part of the economy than a lot of people realize. Usually they want to argue that even if manufacturing is in decline, this doesn't really matter. So you hear that manufacturing in the US is only 10% of GDP and 8% of jobs. And sometimes people even say it's destined to benignly dwindle to a tiny percentage of jobs, like 1 or 2% for farming and agriculture, which is just fine because that was economic progress. Now, first thing you got to remember is that percentage of GDP or percentage of employment is not a reliable guide to the importance of a sector. Restaurants are about 7% of employment, and electric power generation is about 1/3 of 1%. But you lose one sector, you're inconvenienced. You lose the other sector, modern civilization is over. The one sector doesn't enable any other parts of the economy. The other sector, that is electric power, enables just about everything else. Now, that 10% of GDP figure that you hear a lot, that's actually an artifact of statistical definitions that assign the inputs into manufacturing, which range from iron ore to accounting services to other sectors. So it's a classification problem, and measured without subtracting these inputs, manufacturing as of, I'm going to use 2015 figures because that's when the most recent detailed study was done, but things haven't changed that much since then. Manufacturing was not 12% of GDP, it was 35% of GDP in 2015, and it was not 9% of jobs, but it was 21%. Now, another way to look at it is to say that every manufacturing job supports 1.4 jobs outside the sector, the highest multiplier that any sector has. And this may even be an understatement. For example, a quarter of the jobs in computer systems design were, as of 2015, again, they were attributable to manufacturing. So, it's an important sector, and it is not something that we can just neglect as if it's yesterday's news.